we are going to explore topics that are going to be intriguing. Thank you. That are going to be intriguing to your mind, that impact women of all women, women of African descent, and the African diaspora. So I would like at this time to welcome Nathalie to the stage, and she is a firm believer in the role of the community that is reflected in the Shona name of the organization, Tese, meaning together. She collaborates, she mobilizes, she's an activist. Come on. You loving this? she truly believes in the concept of Tese. It takes a village. Well, thank you. Warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are so excited to have this program right here at the UC Davis campus. Thank you to our wonderful drummers. You will see them back again here if you will be joining us for the reception. So thank you. And very soon we will have the AfroVibes dance team coming to join us. We welcome you. It's a great thing when you see us having to extend the room, which means these programs are wanted and they're valued, and we value that you're here. And we hope you enjoy the program. Thank you. All right, I'd like to bring up the UC Davis dancers, join with AfroVibes performance, live performance. They need the stage.
Shut
The energy is in the room now if it wasn't before. I'd like to bring to the stage Gloria Partida. As a response to the challenges that she faced with people with disabilities to find employment, she started a mobile food booth, Puros Churros, in partnership with the community members and with disabilities. After many hours of hard work and astute economic decisions, it has become a successful and quality endeavor. Come on up. Let's welcome Gloria Partida.
So this microphone is like really far away for someone who's vertically challenged. So I'm going to try to speak as loudly as I can. And I am really, really excited to be here. The energy, as was mentioned, is palpable in this room, and I'm just really proud and honored to be part of such an effort. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the City of Davis. I am currently Mayor Pro Tem, and I'm really excited that Nathalie invited me here. And when I was running, I'm recently elected, when I was running, I wanted to make sure, I was very intentional about wanting to bring diversity and visibility to minorities and people who are on the margins in our city. And so this is an excellent demonstration of how that can happen. So Nathalie is a collaborator. I am the co-chair of the Davis Phoenix Coalition, and we've done collaborations with Nathalie. The Phoenix Coalition works with other groups in town. I see Sandy in the back there who has a culture co-op. And so there are multiple ways that community members can do outreach and strengthen the visibility of people whose voices are often not highlighted in the community. And so I really applaud this effort, and I'm glad to be part of it, and I'm glad that the university has taken up this partnership as well. So thank you and welcome. All
right, our next speaker, keynote, is Dr. Moleen Madziva. Her happy spirit is refreshing, and it is well-deserved that she has been nominated for the 2018 Most Inspirational Award by the Zimbabwean Women's Awards. Molly acknowledges there's so much more to live, learn, and love, and she is grateful for the grace and opportunity of being here.
I'm ready to dance all the time. But before we get into dancing, I just wanted to say, as we would in my native Shona tradition, I invite you to kindly join me in honoring those who came before us and perhaps on whose shoulders we stand. So join me. Take a deep breath. I'm always inspired to be in the company of good-hearted, hardworking people. So thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. My sincere thanks mainly to Nathalie Minya and the Tese Foundation for this very generous invitation. I attended the Tese Foundation event yesterday and was profoundly moved by the spirit of community here in the larger Davis area. Thanks to UC Davis staff, faculty, and students for creating spaces for dialogue and celebration of phenomenal women and our authentic diversity. I am also grateful, above and all, for my presence here today by God's grace. I was born in 1975 at the onset of the second liberation struggle that was to provide civil liberties to Black people from the British colonial rule. While you can imagine the very difficult challenges of segregation, I largely recall having a nourishing childhood filled with laughter, love, and ambition. Perhaps it was that I refused poverty from very early on. Growing up in rural Zimbabwe gave me proximity to the natural environment where we foraged for wild fruits and veggies, and I was constantly reminded of the beauty of our planet. Our remarkable traditional rituals, customs, and ethics were part of my lived experience then, and now continue to inform how I journey in the world. I was raised under the Hunu traditional philosophy, some of you may know it as Ubuntu, that speaks to honoring the existence of other humans simply because it is precisely what makes us human. I am because you are. I am well if you are well. With the support of my extraordinary parents, teachers, and well-wishers, I came to the USA for my higher education in 1995. After enduring a challenging 5-year academic term, I graduated from Drexel University in Philadelphia with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering. Any engineers in the room? As we stood in line at that graduation, I realized I was one of only 3 women at the walking ceremony for our electrical engineering cohort. I was grateful for my growing resilience. And then that inspired me to enroll in a master's degree program at Monmouth University. Nothing was stopping me. While there, I worked at Angel Medical Systems, where we designed a heart monitoring device that warns patients before they have a heart attack. That device was approved by the FDA this year, and it is so rewarding to know that my engineering contributions will save lives for years to come. It is also during that same time that I partnered with professors and students to engage in collaborative research to better understand what our contribution to development in Zimbabwe might look like. From this work, the idea for the Macheke Sustainability Project was born. And for the past decade, I have led an impassioned initiative to confront poverty while simultaneously celebrating the people of my community in Zimbabwe. As my aspirations to confront poverty in Africa rose, I recognized that inquiring on what poverty really is became vital. So I began to study in a doctoral program at Prescott College. My research uncovered that the people of Macheke do not view themselves primarily as poor. That was important information for me. The definition of poverty in the views of locals in my village may differ from views of others in the developed world. And yet it is still very essential to meaningfully acknowledge that those views are different if we are, as development practitioners, are going to effectively support developing communities towards and beyond sustainability. As such, the poverties that plague communities around the world are universal. There's poverty everywhere. There are different poverties, economic and otherwise. And there's so much to be gained by asking how to collaborate rather than misplacing assumptions. Our work in Macheke has revealed that poverty is not always about resources, but sometimes it is really about character and spirit beyond those very circumstances that the rest of us may look at as demeaning or unfortunate or simple. In 2014, I became the first Zimbabwean to earn a PhD in sustainability education. And I must say, I am honored by the responsibility to engage in dialogue that sheds a light on what is abundant about Africa and how the rest of the world may stand together with us so that they can gain from having a true, authentic connection to us. I currently work at Abbott as a field clinical engineer in the neuromodulation division. Any neuroscientists, neuroscience majors, and we are responsible for bringing innovations in life sciences for chronic pain and deep brain therapies. Cutting edge stuff. My work in biomedical engineering, as well as my work as a team lead for the Macheke project, is incredibly challenging. But I wake up every day so energized because I realize that I am making a difference in the lives of so many people, not right here only in the USA, but really around the world. When we do work from a place of heart, from a place of authentic heart, we don't look at it as work, but we are called to it, we answer the call, and we get engaged. The regard for lineage and legacy gives meaning to one's nourishing life experience. We all are a product of those that came before us, and we all are influencing what those that will come after us will experience. What kind of world are we going to leave behind? There's an African proverb that says, when your roots are deep, you don't have to fear the wind. When your roots are deep, you don't have to fear the wind. May we remain rooted, each and every one of us here today. May we remain rooted in what is our authentic heart. We know what is authentic to each of us, because our diversity will make us a force for good. Thank you.
like to bring to the stage Ralph Hexter, the Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor. Also with Rahim Reed, Associate Executive Vice Chancellor, and Joanna Regulska, come to the stage, the Vice Provost and Associate Chancellor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to participate in this inaugural African Lioness Symposium. It's wonderful to look out from this podium and see such an enthusiastic, inclusive audience of students, faculty, staff, and friends of UC Davis. And all of us here to learn from African lionesses and support women and children of African descent. On behalf of the university as a whole, I want to thank our symposium hosts, the Tese Foundation, and the UC Davis Blum Center for Developing Economies within our Global Affairs Division. Thank you also to our roster of distinguished speakers and panelists, and to all of you in our audience. It does take a village to make this a symposium of success. I've been only allotted a few minutes at the podium, and already a minute is gone, so my time to speak will be short. But I do want to share some thoughts about why I think this symposium is so important to women of African descent and also to UC Davis. First and foremost, I want to call out the fact that the goal of this event is to inspire, motivate, and uplift all women, but especially women of African descent. This goal is a worthy one and urgent on its own, but it also resonates with and complements the Tese Foundation's core mission of providing educational opportunities to children. Under the leadership and founder and director Nathalie Minya, the Tese Foundation sponsors children, mostly girls, in junior high and high school. It also performs outreach in the United States, mainly in California, to teach children about diversity and promote literacy. Certainly, we need to find more opportunities to teach our children, as well as adults, about the richness of African culture and the need to respect and appreciate what all of the world's cultures have to offer. This African Lioness Symposium is to be commended also for the many relevant lenses through which it views the lives of women and girls of African descent: human rights, the glass ceiling, child marriages, health issues, and the STEM fields, to name just a few. The sort of serious and informed public dialogue the event is designed to foster is a commodity in too short a supply in our society. Finally, we should applaud the fact that the symposium gives such prominence to the voices of women of African descent. Its featured speakers are not only uniquely motivated to find solutions to problems of great importance, but also uniquely qualified through deep knowledge and direct experience to inform and inspire. They can rightfully be called African lionesses for their courage, their strength, their affinity for cooperative work, and ability to both fight and nurture. My final observation is that it's wholly appropriate that this inaugural symposium is being held at UC Davis because its goals and values align so very closely with our own. Nearly 30 years ago, representatives of this university's leadership, faculty, students, and staff first signed an aspirational document declaring our principles of community. Let me quote a little of its powerful language. We affirm the dignity inherent in all of us, and we strive to maintain a climate of equity and justice demonstrated by respect for one another. We recognize and cherish the richness contributed to our lives by diversity. We take pride in all of our achievements, and we celebrate our differences. In keeping with these principles, we're working to model the kind of respectful, compassionate, and principled society we want to live in by promoting a diverse and inclusive university culture, one that gives students, faculty, and staff of all backgrounds the opportunity to succeed, to excel, and to thrive in their education and their work life. There are other major benefits as well. Promoting diversity and inclusion across our Davis and Sacramento campuses enhances our overall excellence and the richness of our community. I wish I had time to describe the myriad efforts UC Davis is making to promote diversity and inclusion across our colleges, our schools, and our departments. I would enjoy telling you about our efforts to support our undergraduates from historically underrepresented, marginalized, and underserved communities through such resources as our Center for African Diaspora Student Success, our Center for Chicanx and Latinx Academic Student Success, and our Educational Opportunity Program, which helps first-generation, low-income students strengthen their academic skills. I'd also enjoy telling you about our Envision UC Davis and Mentoring at Critical Transitions programs, which work to increase the recruitment of African American, Chicanx and Latinx students and Native American, low-income and first-generation graduate and professional students. I could, but will not, also talk about Compost program and the Impact Recruitment Initiative, which increased the pace of hiring of diverse faculty in STEM and non-STEM disciplines alike. Unfortunately, time prevents me from delving into these programs. Even though they're but a fraction of our diversity efforts, I encourage all of you to visit our UC Davis website, including the pages for equity and inclusion, global affairs, and student affairs. You have an ambitious program ahead of you, so let me end here by simply wishing everyone an informative, inspiring event. It's my privilege to introduce our Vice Provost and Associate Chancellor for Global Affairs, Joanna Regulska.
Good evening, everybody. It's so wonderful to see the whole room, and it's also wonderful to see that it's not only one room, now it's two rooms, and the other room is full! I want to thank Provost Hexter for these moving words, but also for the commitment. If it wasn't for his commitment and for Chancellor May's commitment, we would have not been where we are today. They have been champions of our global engagement, empowerment of women, and building strong partnerships across the world. So thank you so much, Ralph, and I know we have a representative of the Mays family, so I want to thank you for really supporting all of us here. So in global affairs that I'm leading, we are part of this effort across the campus to build very strong international connections. And Blum Center for Developing Economies is a wonderful partner, and in fact, Professor Tu Jarvis, who is the director of the center, is here with us, and of course Lily Larson, who has helped us to put the whole program together. Most of all, actually, I wanted to thank Nathalie for doing this incredible job over the last several weeks. So thank you, Nathalie, so much. It truly is an honor to celebrate our African lioness and to empower women across the world. I'm originally from Poland. So while I have done maybe less for the African continent, I certainly have been engaged tremendously in Poland and Central and Eastern Europe to give the voice to women, to engage women in political participation, to think about social justice, gender inequalities, to think about how the political transitions have really impacted women in both positive, but also so often in negative way. And so often we think that democracy, when it comes, it brings all the good things. And yet, it's so often untrue. And especially women are the ones who are very often faced with patriarchal attitude, discrimination, abuse, violence, and numbers of other things that has really trumped the whole notion of democracy. So having done quite a bit of engagement in my own country, and actually having accidentally a very close friend of mine, a great feminist from Poland, here with us today. So she will be here to talk with you also. But it's so important that we actually engage in a global connection and global movement. That we do things, whatever we could do in the countries where we are, but also we build bridges. We connect across the world. Because as much as cultural differences are huge, There's so much similarities, and building bridges is probably one of the most important things that we can do every day. We learn from each other, but we also see differences, and we see different challenges, how much they are rooted in cultural practice. What's in one country is allowable, it's not allowable, and it's criminal in another. And we have to have that understanding of the intercultural context within which we think that the empowerment can work. What works in one place might not work in the other. And that recognition that the empower means so many different things in different locations is extremely important. Here on the Davis campus, we are very proud to really committing ourselves to forming very strong global connections, partnerships, and really thinking all the time very beyond the borders and the boundaries, and finding the ways in which we actually can do it. And obviously, as a symposium like this, it's one way that we can build bridges within our campus, across the culture, but also with our surrounding communities. One of the examples of what we do in Davis is actually a program that has been originated by President Obama, and it's called Mandela Washington Fellows. We have been extremely privileged to be one of the winners and host the 25 young African leaders every year on this campus in June and July, who are coming from many different countries across the African continent. Last year, actually this summer, we have 25 participants from 17 countries, representing large number of countries in sub-Saharan Africa. We are proud, we are the only campus within the UC system that is actually hosting this program, and we're extremely proud that we'll be again hosting this program this year. These young professionals, and with extreme competition to actually gain the privilege of participating, engaging and working with the communities, they are engaging in working with our faculty, with our students, seminars, workshops, but they also travel around in the Northern California. In the past, we have focused on issues of governance, law, public management, but also issue of energy, efficiency, food, and so forth. So we're really looking forward to this coming year and the program. Now, I wonder if Palesa is here. Palesa, here she is. So Palesa, Dr. Palesa Mutabo, who is standing right here, is actually our past Mandela Fellow participant. And she came back. So she's an invasive species researcher from South Africa, who is also a leader in helping children and adults learn about environmental stewardship. And Palesa have developed a great relationship with one of our faculty here on the campus in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Science, Professor Patrick Brown, and she came back to do some research. So the wonderful connection that we have developed and built allows us to benefit from the knowledge and skills that our Mandela Fellows not only took back to their own country, but they are bringing back to us to the campus, and she will be with us for quite a time. Sharing the expertise, the exchange of ideas and learning of new culture is really the core of how we are committing ourselves to building international engagement. Professor Hexter already brought talk about few initiatives that we have done in the campus, but I want to talk about a few more and pointing out to how our faculty are engaged. So first of all, we engage in the global learning by engaging students in different study abroad programs, which we have in Botswana, Ghana, South Africa, and Tanzania, to just mention a few. But also through the Blam Center that was already mentioned, we have engaged our students to go to different places and work on different kind of projects. So, I think I'm having a I don't know if I can, I think I should stop.
Thank you, Joanna, Regulska, and Ralph Hexter. Thank you for your kind words. I'd like to introduce our second keynote speaker, which is Melissa Mushaka. She is a media personality, on camera, a writer. Melissa aspires to tell humbling stories through Mushaka Productions, incorporating real, raw media. The ability to utilize media to be a voice spreading hope, determination, and love has opened up a world that she truly aims to leave an imprint on, one story at a time. Welcome, Melissa.
This is for people with chalacha, people with chalacha, it will make you feel better. This can take away palapa, this can take away wala. It will make you feel Niger. Oh yeah, let's go to Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania. Go Cameroon, Niger, Ghana, South.
Oh, what's up? It's so good to see all these faces. I just want to kind of start by saying, like, who's a student in here? So, a good group of you, yes. Okay. Well, I want to, first of all, just say a huge thank you. Gratitude is so glamorous to me, and I just want to thank Natalie and the Tese Foundation for seeking me out on social media. I was like, who is this on my Facebook? But thank you so much for reaching out to me and just believing in me. It means a lot. And to all the women I've been able to meet, my young Sheilah and Palissa and Dr. Molly and Dr. Joy and, oh my gosh, Mama Vivian and everyone. It's been really great. So just gonna dive in really quickly about me. I was born in Zimbabwe, but I was raised in Dallas, Texas. But I moved to New York right out of college, kind of shortly out of college. And the whole ideal of empowering a generation, for me, when I think of success, I really have to be honest and say, like, my biggest failures, my biggest kind of low blows that we don't talk about, that we kind of just like, are almost, I'll speak for myself, embarrassed about, are really the kind of the gems that added to my journey. So there's three that I really kind of like shot out of bed and was like, that's it, that's what I'm gonna talk about. My whole thing is real raw media, but that begins with me. So my first one is when I moved to New York, 5 suitcases, no job. I just kind of knew it was what I was meant to do. Didn't kind of really have this whole thing planned out, story of my life, but I'm a big believer in faith and God, and I was like, all right, we're gonna figure this out, and I'm gonna just do it. So I got a job, and 5 months later I got laid off, because that is when the whole recession with Obama happened, and it was kind of like my first low blow of like, oh snap, like this is real life, like what is laying off, like what do I do? Like I had no clue kind of how to navigate this jobless adult life. And I was like, I want to go back to college. You know what I mean? I couldn't lie and say, Mom, I need money for books, because no, I didn't have a job. So it was kind of like, what do I do? And I had to pay rent. So a few months go by, the recession was really bad at that time, and I get a job at a restaurant. I just had to humble myself and be like, yo, this is real. So I get a job at a restaurant in Brooklyn, a burger spot. And honestly, when I was going to work, I would have these moments of like, dang, did I really go to college and move out here to do this? Like in my mind, it just felt like this enormous failure. Like, what am I doing? But I also had to pay rent. So I'm working at this restaurant, time goes by, and I'm going to work one day, and I see all these trucks and this commotion, and I'm like, what's going on? And so this is in downtown Brooklyn. And I go to work, and we're slammed, and all these TV people were coming in, and they were eating, and I looked at my coworker and I said, oh my God, it was MTV, they were filming 2 award shows. And I looked at my coworker and I said, Tiffany, girl, I'm about to get me a job. And she said, Mushaka, if you don't shut up and make those shakes. And I was like, okay, you're not excited. So I just was like, oh, this is it. Like, I just felt it. So I'm making these shakes and I'm asking every single person, like, you know, how do you want your meat cooked? What kind of cheese do you want? And what do you do with the company? Can I get advice? You know, how do you want your meat cooked? What kind of cheese? What do you do with the company? Like, every single person that came to my face, I said, what do you do and how'd you do it? You know, just kind of really develop my elevator pitch like that. They're all kind of, some are receptive, some aren't, brushing me off. And I was like, okay, it's fine. A few days go by, and I'm in there by myself. Well, yeah, no one was really in there. It was a slow day, and a woman came in for a chocolate shake. So I'm making the shake, and I remember having this moment of like, oh, I might as well ask. You know, you get enough no's, but it's like, whatever. And I said, so what do you do with the company? And she's like, oh, I'm head of production. And I was like, oh, I would love to get advice from you. You know, I went to school for it, but I don't know how to navigate my way into this whole TV world or whatever. So she's like, sure. She gave me her phone number, her email, and she said, email me after November 2nd. I said, okay. November 2nd comes, I email. Her assistant finally sets us up. I go to a meeting at MTV headquarters, which is in 1515 in the middle of Times Square, and I get invited. I get like a sticky note kind of like this that has my name and it says 22nd floor, and I get ushered up to this 22nd floor in the middle of 1515, and I go to this office that's kind of like half the size of this room, and I'm like, oh snap, she's got a sofa in there and a fridge in there, and I'm like, who is this lady? So we sit down and she looks over my resume. And I find out she's the senior vice president of VH1, and she hired me for my first job on the spot. And it was just mind-blowing that happened, but what I viewed as a failure ended up being kind of like my open door to TV. So that led me to doing job after job, and I got a job at NBC about a year or so later. Again, another huge dream of mine. But when I got the job, it wasn't the role I wanted, but it was the ideal place. You know, it was 30 Rock, it was NBC. It's like, oh my God, I've made it. Not really, but I had, but not really. So I'm like, I just felt like I needed to say yes. I'm getting this job, and it wasn't really great pay, but it was a good opportunity, you know? So I'm like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna ride it out. And I worked with great people, and I loved NBC, and I was super close with my bosses. But I always kind of felt like I was like this size 9 shoe wearing a size 5, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't feel right. And within that confusion, I feel I got another job, or I got offered another job that was paying $7,000 more. So I say what I view as a failure because I accepted that job. And I think as a young person, we're so quick to be like, oh, this is right, run, this, that. Where my mom is like, I don't understand. Why do you leave jobs so quickly? Why do you not stay? La, 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 la. You know, it's like, there's so much swirl. And, you know, our parents kind of work these jobs for like 5, 10, 20 years. And we're just so quick to be like, deuces, you know? And it's like, what's the balance? So for me, I was like, well, they're gonna pay me more money. I'm gonna get to do my own media on the side. At this time, I was really clear that I wanted to do on camera, but I didn't know how to get there. So I left, and I ended up going into a job that was literally like the Devil Wears Prada. Like, it was terrible. I mean, my first day of work, she's like, call my ex-husband and tell him he needs to be at therapy today. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, it was just this awful experience. And it kind of led to this like really kind of low depression. But it taught me, you know, the weight and the importance of making a good decision, and what is a good decision, and how do you navigate these kind of things. So that job, we parted ways amicably, but I had to go back to the drawing board. And again, I'm kind of like, okay, I moved to New York. You know, I left this great dream job. I had all these opportunities, and now I'm unemployed again. What am I doing? So I just restarted. I kind of started from scratch. And in that time, I was still doing freelance, and I had met Ariana Huffington and her assistant. And, you know, we had talked, and I'd given them kind of like, told them what I was interested in. They were like, keep in touch. So I went back to the drawing board and did a video resume, and I sent it to different people, and I sent it to them. And they were like, we'd love to bring you on board, but we can't pay you. So I go from this job that's paying me a lot of money to this opportunity that's like, we're paying you no money, but it was my dream. I was able to create content. I was able to I mean, people took me seriously. It's not like I was a YouTuber trying to film. It was like, you know, people were like, oh, you're a HuffPost contributor. Sure, I would love for you to interview me. And that was great because it opened up the door for a lot of opportunities. I mean, people challenged me to interview celebrities. It wasn't my thing, but I got to have these real conversations with artists. I did a Coachella and Afropunk, and I interviewed, you know, Fat Joe and all these all these people who I would never get the chance to, and I was doing it dirt broke. I was disgustingly broke, and that's my third kind of like lesson. It's like I had this opportunity, but I had no money, and it was really humbling because it kind of put me in this place of like debt, but I was living my dream. But like, you know, my Instagram and my Facebook were on fleek, but my bank account was ugly. It's like, what? It was a mess. It's like, whose life is this so many times? And I think a lot of it really led down to like, I didn't know my worth in terms of like getting paid. And I didn't even realize that I didn't know my worth until I was so broke that I was like, I can't do this. And I kind of hit this wall and called my friend crumbling in the closet. And I was like, I think this is it. I don't want to do this anymore. I just felt like a failure because I was like, I'm doing all this stuff, but I have no money and I'm huffing and fighting for this dream. But I'm like, why am I so exhausted and doing this from a place of just, I guess, brokenness. I don't know. So I kind of just let it all go, and I left New York on a one-way ticket just to kind of ground myself. And I had a friend that did something called inner healing, and she was like, just come out and let's just sit with me and let's just process through what you were going through. There was a lot of other stuff personally going on as well. But I stepped back and I stepped away from media, and I just really healed, and I just kind of figured out why am I doing this? Like, who am I doing this for? Like, what is this about? And like, what does media mean to me? And it means this. It means telling you that I've had 67 cents in the bank more times than I can count, and I hate that, but it's my truth. And it means that I've had to ask friends for money to get on the train just to get to an interview when I was sitting next to like Fat Joe. It means I was on a red carpet and I had zero money interviewing all these wealthy people, and I'm like, hopefully I can make it home. You know, it just means there was a lot of real moments within, you know, what makes this. It means it just wasn't always pretty, and it's not always going to be pretty. And I'm not standing here saying I've made it or I have more than 67 cents. But like it, you know, I'm not standing here saying that it's still picture perfect. But I'm saying that I didn't give up. I'm not giving up. And I feel like there's so many people who, if we can just sit with each other and just be really real about what it is that success looks like, I think there'd be a lot less suicide and a lot less depression and a lot less just closeted stuff, because it's real. Like, it's not always glamorous. So yeah, that is my truth, and that is where my journey has led me. And I've started my own company, and I'm still working through it as I build Mushaka Productions, and I'm still doing behind the scenes stuff because I gotta make money. But it's such a privilege to be able to stand here with no shame and no guilt and say, like, this is what happened. And I am so thankful for the support around me, even from strangers, not who aren't strangers, but my lionesses who just embraced me and loved me, and all these people in this room. So thank you so much for so much. I appreciate all of you.
She allowed her passion to drive her, right? Melissa, it's your passion. That's right, that's what keeps you going. So I'd like to bring LeShelle May to the podium. So LeShelle accepted the Computer World Smithsonian awarded to her on behalf of the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. LeShelle currently serves on the Sacramento KVIE PBS Board and the Girl Scout Greater Sacramento Board. In the past, she served on the Board of Trustees, Executive Board of Trustees, and the Women Alumni for Georgia Tech. And you'll tell us a lot more about us than that, right? Come on out. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. I have to put on glasses because I can't see. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for inviting me today. It's an honor to be here at the first African Lioness Symposium. The topics discussed today, such as public service, human rights, and female empowerment, are more important than ever. I truly hope it becomes an annual event. So let's make that happen, UC Davis. And I want to thank Natalie for the invitation and the dress that I'm wearing. There's no shame in that game. But she and I both are Davis Sunrise Rotarian, and I admire all the wonderful humanitarian work that you do at Davis and beyond. The fact that she considered me as a lioness today is humbling and a great honor. So before I start briefly on a few words, I won't take up a lot of your time. I have visited several parts of the continent of Africa. I'm not sure everyone's exposure to it, but I've been to the northernmost point of Africa. I've been to the southernmost point of Africa. Two different worlds, the truth. And I often hear people say, you know, in Africa. No, it's a continent. It's got culture, language, religions, and Northern Africa is so vastly different from Cape Town. And then I've spent time in West Africa, in Accra, Abidjan, Togo. I visited the caves before people came to the United States. But the first time I encountered a lioness was on East Africa. And so when you say an African lioness, you mean the east coast of Africa. I've been to Tanzania and Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania. And Gary and I, people don't know, my husband's the Chancellor of UC Davis. But a year ago, we spent 10 days in the Serengeti, and that was the best trip of my life, and I've been around the world. That's true. But just briefly, the lioness is, if you've never been on a safari, you go on game drives and you spend 8 to 10 hours out in the Serengeti with the animals. And my first encounter with the lioness, picture this, and I'm leading somewhere with this. She just caught a zebra, true story, I mean, I'm feet away. She just caught a zebra, is on her left. Right above her are 2 vultures. To the right of us were a pack of hyenas. In front of us were a few jackals. And then shortly in front of her, a few feet away, were her cubs eating the legs of the zebra. So just picture that. I hope I'm not grossing anybody out. But it's in that moment that you realize the power of a lioness. The characteristics of her, to me, at that moment, embodied, for one, she was a provider. She hunted. She's the hunter of the den for the family. She's a provider. A lioness is a provider. She was multitasking. She was eating and looking, and eating and looking. Also, at the same time, she's watching all these things around. I don't know how she has lunch and do that, you know. She was a teacher. I asked the driver, why is it that the lioness did not have her cubs closer to her? They were growing, and so she pushes them further and further away as they grow. She was a protector because she would eat and look and eat and look. These are signs of a lioness she's protecting. I also asked, why did the hyenas attack her or her cubs? And they said, she is the king of the jungle. She is respected and powerful and has strength. These are all characteristics of a lioness from all the ladies who are here today. Just my humble opinion. You know. So, you know, and Gary and I had to raise two girls. They're not, you know, they were underrepresented in this world. And so we spent time in making sure that they had the best education opportunities and try to be role models. Even today, they're 21 and 23, and I still look to the left like my lioness. What are they really doing, you know? You know, more than anything, we've tried to instill strength, and a lioness is unwavering and steadfast. And not to make male lions look bad, but they're known for being a little lazy. In fact, the lionesses who are putting their lives on the line, they hunt for the food. They're the strengths. So as you know, women of color, we've needed the strength to get by. It's hard enough trying to climb the ladder in our respective careers. But when you're an African American woman, sometimes the glass ceiling seems a little extra thick. I'm grateful for my career success. I know the feeling of being a team leader and the excitement of launching new products for a major media company. I work, for those who don't know, I work for CNN. I've been at CNN for 22 years. The work we do is crucial for this information age, and tomorrow is especially a big day for CNN. As the public demands more reputable news more than ever. But it's no big secret that the worlds of technology and media tend to be dominated by men. I wouldn't say that you have to claw your way to the top, but like the lioness, you have to tap into that strength, you know, and be steadfast. Tenacity is most important, you know. You know, as I think back to a time when my daughter, she studied computer science at Purdue, and she was a minority. And she called me many times about feeling inferior intellectually, or feeling that, could she do this? But she was steadfast. But I like this new age group. You guys are thinking, how can I make change? For me, I just wanted to get by or get through. So it's nice that you're thinking, how can they make a difference in the classroom so there are more African American women in STEM majors? So, not to mention that her father's been a leader in this department. But Gary and I are thrilled to be at a university like Davis, where the values of diversity and social mobility of all students matter. So, you know, maybe the glass ceiling is not as thick at Davis. Davis has been on a great run for national rankings. I thought maybe Ralph would bring him up, but we were recently named as a public university in the nation by the Wall Street Journal. Money Magazine says we're number 8. We also were ranked number 8 as the most transformative colleges, which looks at social mobility of graduates. This one really has us feeling proud, because Davis is showing the world how successful it is in preparing students of all backgrounds as they enter an increasing diverse and global market. So our lionesses from Davis are prepared. And there's one more note. UC Davis is ranked number 1 for women in STEM, so that really speaks to my heart, studying electrical engineering. And so they're not alone. Our lionesses aren't alone either. They can collaborate with other students here. So I love that idea. I don't want to hold you up any longer. It's nice to bring women. We're doing really good on campus with women in computer science and mathematicians. We have a professor like Sarah Stewart. I don't know if she's here or not, but she's a UC Davis planetarian scientist who was recently named a MacArthur Genius. How sweet is that? Not to mention Helene Dillard, the dean of our renowned College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, who's also an African American woman. We have a lot more work to do. The numbers are low, but we're increasing. We're doing better. Let's protect our protective spirit to mentor and guide the next generations, just as people has helped us in our paths to succeed. Let's give back and inspire others to fulfill all of their dreams. We need the young lionesses to pave the way for the future. Right. So thanks again to the organizers for allowing me to share a few words, and I wish everyone a great day, good dialogue, and cultural celebration. Thanks.
moving into a 10-minute break, but I want to encourage you to come back. You will hear from a panel talking about very poignant issues that concern women. You will be able to hear from Sheilah Sheldone, the artist, our 9-year-old artist from Kenya. And there are refreshments, in this position, okay. So please join us after the break. We're going to bring up the dancers, the AfroVibes dancers, to give us another performance. And there'll be refreshments after that. And then there's a reception afterward with very wonderful African delicacies. So let's welcome the AfroVibes dancers. Got us up. So it is 5:26. I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Now, we will also be giving away a gift.
Well, good evening, everyone. First, I want to offer my sincere apologies for just getting here. I understand that the first half of the program went very well, and you had an opportunity to hear some very compelling and important narratives. I want to offer you my welcome to the University of California, Davis. I understand that Provost Hexter and Vice Provost Joanna Regulska also were here to offer you their greetings and welcome too. As I said, my name is Rahim Reed. I serve as the Associate Executive Vice Chancellor for Campus Community Relations. I am also the lead for the Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at UC Davis. And that's a very important point to make. UC Davis is actually now creating a Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion position to coordinate the many different diversity, equity, and inclusion activities that we have across campus and in the community itself. This work has been done in the past through my office and through several other offices, and now we have the opportunity to have one Vice Chancellor office to coordinate these activities on both sides of the causeway, here in Davis and also at the UC Davis Health System in Sacramento. And well, why is that important? Well, it's important because we know that diversity is a part and parcel component of academic excellence. And we strive for academic excellence here at UC Davis. It's also important because UC Davis, as a part of the University of California, is a land-grant institution. We are the land-grant university for the state of California. And what that means is that our mission is to improve the quality of life for the citizens of this state. That's what we were created for, and that's what we strive to do each and every day. In the early part of this century or last century, when we were created and working, much of the problems that we were doing research on had to do with trying to grow enough food for everyone, make sure everyone was healthy, and make sure that we had an educated population to move our state forward. And so as a land-grant institution, a lot of our research was in those areas, in health, in farming, mechanized farming and the like, and in education itself, trying to create educational opportunities for all. Those are still some of the challenges we have today, but we also have other challenges. We have the intractable challenge of poverty that seems to persist. We have the challenge of the academic achievement gap that continues to exist, creating disparities for our underrepresented minority students in this state having access to a world-class university like UC Davis. It is our goal to bring the research capacity and engine of the University of California, Davis to solve not only the problems in the past like we had, but looking into the future to continue to do public engaged scholarship, community scholarship that looks at some of the problems that are facing the communities that we live in today, and to do the research and scholarship and work, and to partner with community organizations and groups, civic, religious, cultural, educational groups, to be able to solve those problems that are impacting our communities today. So we think of ourselves today as a global university of the 21st century. And although our land-grant mission initially was created to solve the problems and improve the quality of life for the state of California, we now expand that mission and the responsibilities with it beyond our state to our nation, and beyond our nation to the world. Because we are a global university, we take the responsibility of solving the problem, or at least attempting to partner with those that would work with us to solve some of the perplexing problems challenging humanity as a whole all over this world. But we can't get anywhere if we're holding one hand behind our back. And when we don't empower women, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking half of the strength, half of our knowledge, half of our agility and ability away. when we don't create equitable educational pathways for women to fully achieve and self-actualize to their fullest potential, to help us and to partner with us as in a bond of humanity to solve some of these problems of today. And so again, I want to welcome you. I know that you've heard some important narratives. I know and hope that the remainder of the program is stimulating to you, that it builds on your consciousness, and it makes you a willing participant in the work that we're all trying to do to make our communities and the communities around the world more inclusive, more productive, more supportive, more humane. And to do that, we start by treating ourselves all as one. And that means that we empower the women amongst us to be as strong, if not even stronger, than the men. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Is this someone kudamba bore?
We all want great things for our kids. We want to be able to provide them with all the necessities to thrive in life. We want them to be safe, to do well at school, to have a bright future, and we want them to be happy.
Hello, I'm Nathalie Minya Mukome. I'm a wife, a mother, a public speaker, and the founder of Tese Foundation.
Tese Foundation was born out of a need to support school children in Zimbabwe by paying for tuition, school uniforms, personal hygiene packs, and examination fees.
I was born in the beautiful city of Harare, Zimbabwe. Growing up in Zimbabwe had a lot of strengths and challenges on its own. As a young lady going to school, I saw a lot of my friends, and sometimes even myself, struggling just to get by, to pay tuition, or to just manage and navigate my way around a very patriarchal society. This gave me this desire to form Tese Foundation.
Tese Foundation works with schools to try and locate the children that are in the most need for support. It's the teachers that see the most change and the real impact of the support.
I teach some of the people who are beneficiaries of the funding from Tese Foundation. I've seen it being very helpful to these people, because you know some of these people, when most of the time when their fees have been not paid for, they are sent home to ask for fees from their parents. At the end, find that most of these people do not come back to school.
Dorcas is one of the girls that gets help from Tese Foundation.
She's improved drastically. It's all because of his mind. After he's being paid for. And she comes from a poor background. She's an orphan. So it's very important when we get these funding from Tese Foundation, paying fees for these people. Dorcas is one of those people who was almost like dropping out of school.
I see girls like Dorcas all the time, struggling to go through school and struggling to make their way and their impact through life. A lot of girls in Zimbabwe are expected to wake up first thing in the morning and sweep the floor and cook the food and sometimes even farm the garden, water the garden, and plow before they even start that 1-2 hour trek to school on an empty stomach. I think by the time they get to school, they're exhausted, and really to expect a child to excel in these conditions and then have to pay tuition is a travesty. I really wanted to see how I can alleviate some of these problems. I really believe that educating children should not be a privilege, but it should be a necessity for every child.
Ndiri ku primary vabereki vangu vasati vashaika ndaibhadharirwa school fees, but pandakazouya ku secondary LeShelle vanondibhadhira school fees, but ndinotenda Tese Foundation yakandibetsera yakatanga kundibhadharirawo school fees.
This is just one example of millions of girls in Zimbabwe, in Africa, all around the world that need that opportunity and that we can give that opportunity.
Tese Foundation also supports boys, and Silvanus is one of those hard-working young boys determined to study hard and get far in life.
Ndakapedza kudzidza toda kuita doctor ndichibetsera vanorwara, ende futi ndichabetsera vabereki vangu ndichivapa zvose zvavanenge vachida.
I also realized when I was doing this fundraiser for the tuition that a lot of the girls didn't have the necessary sanitary health packages that are needed to thrive as a young woman. So I started the underwear project, Got Underwear hashtag. And my desire was to make sure that every girl has a clean, working, in good condition underwear that they can use when they're on a period or just to go to school. It seems like something that is so minimal and small for many of us, but a lot of children struggle and miss days of school, which equate to a whole month of a year of school when they're on the period and they don't have the necessary sanitary help. Education is a global crisis, and educating girls an even bigger crisis. What I've learned, it takes a village to solve this problem. It takes some of us on the ground, but it also takes your support. I'm asking you to take a second to partner with us. Visit us at www.tesefoundation.com, and there's so many different levels that you can help make a difference. Thank you.
Right. Testing. Can you hear me in the back? If you can hear me, clap once. Well, I think people in the back can hear us. Just raise your hand if you can't hear us. So it's in the video. My name is Nathalie Minya. I am the director of Tese Foundation, and this was just a dream a year ago that we need spaces where women of color can bring their knowledge and be invited and welcomed. And thank you all. You just did that. Thank you so much. I really applaud you. We're having two specific panels. This one will be focused on human rights and media and arts. And if you wait a little bit longer, you'll hear more about women in STEM and politics, which is really hot right now, so stay for the rest. So on the panel today, I have Miss Gloria Partida. She is our next Mayor of Davis, Mayor Pro Tem, first woman Latino mayor in Davis, and we're really proud of her, proud to have her. And is the director of Davis Phoenix Coalition. So I don't know where she finds time in her life to do stuff. So welcome, Gloria.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we have Dr. Moleen Madziva. You heard about her. She's an engineer and a human rights activist, and she's the director of Macheke projects. And then we just heard from Miss Melissa Mushaka. I envisioned it being very different and bringing all these women that have really different backgrounds. And I love that you shared your honest opinion about media and art. So thank you for joining us. So we're going to have just a conversation and give you enough time to do question and answer after. So if you have something that you've really been wanting to ask them from their keynote or from this conversation, please, make sure that we're going to give you some time. But I wanted to start with Melissa. I was really touched by how honest you were about being there, meeting celebrities, and being broke. What advice can you give to young people out there who don't have connections like you did? We can't all wait in a milkshake restaurant waiting for our big break. What can young people out there that want to do media and arts do to get that first break?
Right.
really, I think the main thing is we all have, well, I'll speak for myself. I had an idea of what it was going to look like. You know, I was so stuck on the how, like it's going to look like this, and the how. I'm going to move, make a job, and the job's going to go from this to that to that. I'm going to be a millionaire by 25, and I wasn't, obviously. I was just really stuck on the how, but life kept kind of knocking me down and humbling me. And in those humble moments, I just surrendered the how, and I said, okay, I'm just going to focus on what's in front of me, which is I need to pay rent. I need to X. But then I think the beauty of life and how it works is opportunities are all around if we pay attention. So I think I could have missed that, you know, restaurant moment with the execs or whatever if I had just been so stuck on like, no, it's not supposed to look like this, and I work at a restaurant and I'm a loser. And, but you know, it's just like opening your mouth and asking for help, opening your mouth and reaching out, you know. A lot of Instagram, like reaching out to people on Instagram, like they may not respond to you. Say, yeah. You know, you're not gonna get your no's point you to your yeses. Yeah. So that's one big thing that I learned. It's like, okay, no, this great job at this newspaper didn't open the door, but this restaurant did. And that's kind of been the trajectory. I have other stories that are very similar to that, where I was a nanny for this woman on TV, but that's what got me into NBC. Wow. You know, and it wasn't ever this picture perfect thing. I felt like always Jesus in the manger. I'm like, oh gosh, this is not really a palace, right? Like it's not glamorous, but it's possible.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And Moleen, I was really touched by you sharing about that you grew up in poverty and you refused poverty from a young age. I really appreciate what you said. People have this perception of Africa or going to the village as people that are poor and need help. But every time I go to my grandmother's village, it is the most fulfilling, most renewing, most empowering experience I have. This is the place where people share the last tomato, share the last slice of bread, and you come from the village really feeling empowered. And I don't think I've ever met anyone who lives in rural Zimbabwe like, oh, poor me, I'm so poor. I've only ever heard that word here in the US. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you so much for such an important question and for picking out one of the more important aspects of what I was addressing earlier. What we do know is that in every community there's some form of poverty, and when we start to pay attention to the abundance that's within those places, we are then able to really use that as a foundation for connecting better to those communities and to those people, so that we can then confront the poverties, whether it is economic or people feeling lonely or depression, whatever global poverties we may face as human beings, I really look at it as a collective human suffering, and it's always really a true invitation to say, I want to get engaged here, but instead of focusing on what's not there, let's start with what's there. Okay. And in communities such as rural communities, a lot of it is the Hunu spirit, loving one another, recognizing that I am because you are, and just connecting from that perspective really begins a good foundation that's more sustainable than having the poverty consciousness of those that we may think have humble lives.
Okay. So is this something that's learned? What refusing poverty when is this something that you just learn, or you just grow up refusing poverty?
So what I say to young women and girls is be very furious in refusing poverty.
And the labels.
We are no longer expecting someone to define what poverty is. We are the ones that can name the areas where we need support, but in wanting support, we should be very clear about what we can also offer to the world. If it's a healthy perspective, then I can, share with other maybe schools in America about what it means not to be bullying one another or to be mean to one another. So I said no, it's an early age. And I say to every person in this room, go and tell any young person to say no to the poverties that we may start to define ourselves as, and start saying yes to the enoughness.
Yes, that's right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, this is really great because all three of you are women that I consider very real and honest, and in their spaces are present in the moment and are doing work in their community to better the world. So, Ms. Gloria, you are mayor, you're engineer, you're a STEM, you are director of Davis Phoenix Coalition. How do you balance this this life? You only have 24 hours in a day, I hope.
Yes, you get up really early.
You get up really early.
Yes, get up really early in the morning. I thank you for inviting me, and what I really love about intersections like this, about looking across cultures and other peoples and bringing everyone together, is that you see all the similarities.
Yeah.
So as I hear the stories, and I love stories, I'm a collector of stories, as you hear other people's stories, you see that it's the same everywhere. You see your own self reflected in those places, and so I think that it is really important to not accept poverty. It's really important not to accept the limitations. And so when I was growing up in a very underserved area, and there were very few people that made it out of that area, and I was on a trajectory to get out of that area. And then I had kids, and so I didn't graduate high school, and I had a son who was severely disabled, and so I felt like that was the end for me.
Right.
And but I knew somewhere that was not the end for me, and so and then life was difficult. We were very poor, and I knew that I had to make a better place for my kids, and so I went back to school. And I started in junior college, and at some point I decided that, well, when I went back, all I wanted to do was to do something where I could get enough training that I could make enough money to support my children. And I was at junior college, and there's these posters all over at the transfer center. And there was a poster for UC Davis. And I know when I was in high school and I was researching colleges, UC Davis was the college that I wanted to go to. And so I had, made up my application and all of that, and then, life happened, and so I didn't get to go. And so there was the poster for UC Davis, and I said, why not? Why can't I still do this? And so I went into the counselor's office and I said, this is what I want to do. And I ended up here, and I'm a neurobiologist, which is what I wanted to do. And so I think that every time, there's an obstacle, there is a path through. I just think that there's always a path through. And so I think when you ask, how do you do it all, you find that way. You find the path. You find the paths.
You find it, even if it's a small, thin path. Thank you. It's really true, because people see you as, the Mayor of David, and see like your life is put together. And it's important for us to talk about where we started from, and how we've been empowered, and how that hasn't stopped us. And I just wanted to ask all of you, and any one of you can pitch in, who has been somebody inspirational in your life who has made a difference? I think about finding women that look like me when I was younger, living in Zimbabwe. it was everybody looked like me. So I didn't have that problem. I didn't even need to look for anyone who looked like me. There were too many people who looked like me. And this problem is not the same for my daughter who's 6. You know, I realized that I am not equipped as an African woman to raise an African American child. And that was mind blowing for me. And so I've had to come to my African American sisters and like, teach me. I need to know the ways, because it's really important for our kids to have that identity. But how do you find your identity without finding people that look like you? So those are kind of two-part questions. First, is there anybody who's inspired you in your life growing up? And how do you think our younger Lioness Cubs find their identity in a place where they're underrepresented?
Yes.
So you can pick.
Go ahead. So when I came to Davis, I have that experience. When the community that I was in, everybody looked like me. So it was, in some ways, even though the resources were less, it was easier to be there than it was to be here. And then when my daughter was growing up in Davis, it was very difficult for her. She felt isolated. And but it also served her, because when she went out into the world, where there were a lot of people that didn't look like her. And so I think that what was important for me was to reach back to my culture and to my people, and to gather the strength there, so that I could go forward, and so that I could have a solid ground to give to my kids.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Any one of you want to?
Go ahead. Sure, I'll jump in politely. I don't know if you can hear me. Check. It's all good. I know this is almost like a typical answer, but for me, sorry about that, my mom. And not just because it was my mom, but because she's such tough love. It's almost, oh man, but this is like tough to another level. Like when I was going off to college, I remember getting accepted to Tech. And then I went, and I was a little wild, and then I got kicked out. And my mom I was like dead to her. She's like, I don't have a daughter. I'm not talking to you. Like she just totally cut me off. Like I was dead to her.
So what do I eat? Where do I live?
Totally, no, seriously. Like she was like, no. And I got my act together. I got back into school, and she's like, I don't know who you think's paying for that. But she was just so tough love. When I moved to New York, she was like, it's on you. When I moved to Cali, she's like, it's on you. And but it was really from a place of like, I've given you the tools through your upbringing and putting you in good schools and this and that. You can figure it out. And and I did. And it's really helped me in those toughest moments where I'm like, am I going to get on the train, or whatever that moment looked like. It just kind of gave me that, like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Moleen?
Thank you for asking. So I've stood on so many shoulders, but in the spirit of honoring lionesses, I would have to say my maternal grandmother, who left a difficult polygamist marriage to fend for herself in a time where it was quite not well supported. And she passed away in 2003, but what I remember growing up, a lot of that was more about you have to have the confidence to be your authentic self. She spoke much in metaphors, and metaphors are quite important in the literary African traditions, mainly because they allow you the freedom to make what that narrative shall be, but in essence, it's really about connection and heart. And I really am so grateful for the confidence that I saw in her, because through those metaphors, I refuse not to show up, I refuse not to be fully present, and my love is expressed in the sense of joy. So I hope that we can continue to connect.
Right, that's wonderful. Yeah. And just moving back to you, Melissa, I keep thinking about right now, it's really topical, elections are coming up. In the world and in this space of fake news, how do you, as an African woman, work your way through that to bring your truth and to bring truth in the media spaces that you are?
Right, I think I just have stopped worrying about what others think and what it's gonna look like to them. Like, I don't worry about, like, I have X amount of followers, and I don't worry, oh, I haven't posted for, you know, I went all last 2017 and I didn't post, and it was so freeing. It really was, because it's like we are just so polluted and convoluted, and I think the real news comes from knowing yourself. The more I've become clear with myself, I don't worry about what others think because I stand in my truth. And if someone doesn't believe me, it doesn't matter because I know who I am and I know why I am and I know whose I am. And I think it's just this whole success starts within. And that sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. It's true. Yeah.
Right, thank you, and it's true. I often think that we lose our identity, and you're all talking about going back to people, going back to find inspiration, going back to people that have inspired you. And I'm just thinking about you, Gloria. You're an inspiration to your own children, and I know you talk about the Davis Phoenix Coalition, and you have real stories about how, you know, your challenges with children, your children being profiled, your children having, you know, difficulties in the community because of disability, and how do you then, as you know, merge your work as the mayor of Davis to the work that you do as Davis Phoenix Coalition in the city to make a better city for us?
So, as I said when I was running, it was the reason that I wanted to run, because I wanted my voice to be in places where I had the opportunity to make policy and where I was going to be able to represent and to make aware the needs of people that are not usually met. And so for my kids, I mean, I have a son who was brutally beaten in a hate crime. I have a son who has a severe disability. And I have to say that, you know, a lot of people will say to me, you know, you're such an inspiration, you've done so many things. But when I look at my two boys, I think about their courage, and I think about the obstacles that they've overcome. My son, who has a severe disability, can only use one hand, really. You know, he has spasticity, cerebral palsy. And a while back, I had rotator cuff surgery. And so I could only use one hand. And I, like, for the first time, really appreciated what it was like to go through the world for him.
That's really,
and
that's deep.
He, like, will not ask for help. And so he's such an inspiration to me. My son, after his beating, after, you know, they didn't know if he was going to walk again afterwards. And he had such PTSD that he couldn't, like, leave the house. And a few days after he came home, he said, I'm going to leave the house. And he, you know, took himself to, like, CVS or something. And he was on the phone the whole time with his cousin because he wanted to, you know, he wanted somebody on the phone with him. But he worked through that difficulty. And so I look at people in the world who have, you know, overcome difficulties. And so it, you know, when I think about what drives me, I have no excuse.
Right.
And because I've seen those difficulties in my own home, it really pushes me forward.
Thank you. We were talking about this with some of the Lionesses. We also underestimate how much of an influence you've been to your children. We underestimate how much of an influence we are to the world. And I think it's great to take a moment and really reflect on yourself and give yourself a pat in the back because we worked really hard, right? And we're never really fully acknowledged. And like Melissa said, we shouldn't wait for acknowledgement. Acknowledge yourself. So, yeah. With that, I wanted to see if anyone in the audience had some questions for them, with anything to do with what we're talking about on the panel, or just something you've been wanting to ask them for months and months, and this is your chance. So. There's a mic, and you can go ahead. Oh, back, all the way in the back. She wants to bring to you.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Hi.
My name is Rahma. So I was wondering if you've ever experienced the imposter syndrome, like as an African woman or a person. Hello. Well, sorry. Person who migrated from the continent, and like, how do you deal with that sense?
Are you taking it? Okay. So I don't fully understand the imposter syndrome. Can you say just one thing so I can answer with context?
Yeah, sure. So by imposter syndrome, I mean like when you, for instance, in a space and you feel like you don't really belong, or you feel like you are there as someone who is thought to be smart and capable, but then like deep down you feel like it's not really what's happening.
I see. Okay. You want to take it? You go first. Yeah.
Let's do rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, really. I don't believe the lie. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that chatter, and I don't listen to the chatter. You know what I mean? It's I can accept the lie and what, honestly, what the enemy's saying. I can believe the negative and the truth. And the moment I lean into it, it's a downward, it's a rabbit hole, and I just don't believe the lie. I try to take 7 minutes or so every day, and I speak life over myself, and I declare, and I speak a spirit of excellency, and I say I am this, and I am that, and I refuse to believe anything else, because that will come, and I will believe that. And I've had those rabbit hole moments and that depression and so forth, but it's like, what am I saying yes to, and who am I saying yes to?
Yeah, and I'll quickly take this as well. I mean, we're just gonna, I know. But one of the things in my experience that has been quite powerful is when I'm in a scenario where someone is trying to undermine me, most of the time it tends to be more of a projection of some of their own shadow. I will ask them, what is it in you that probably is seeing this about me? Because you cannot see something that is not within yourself.
That's a good answer. Yeah, we have more to come, so I'm going to wrap this up so we can move on to the next interview. But this has been great, ladies, and we have a reception right at the end of this, and you can ask more questions. So thank you.
Dzokerayi. So I want to, as we make our transition, we're going to transition to here. Sheilah's video will be going on, but as they get that set up, this is Empowering a Generation, Reflections from African Women. Some of the things I heard: be your authentic self. Don't believe the lie. Stand on your truth.
I don't know actually why I draw, but it's just God-given. I was given by God. It's something in me. My name is Sheilah Sheldone. I am 9 years old. I am an artist, designer, a model. I've also designed for the President of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I am designing for the President a shirt, and it will be ready in 6 weeks coming, so I'll present to him. I started drawing when I was 5 years old, when my teacher told my mother that I had a talent in drawing, so she started nurturing it. My favorite drawing is the lion. Most tourists come to Kenya to see lions more. I also teach children, because if you have a talent, don't just say it's mine alone, I should not teach others. So you should also share your talent out there. I draw in women because they suffer a lot, like my mom, she has been suffering, she had an operation, so I just draw women because they are the most important people in our family. I think about my family, how it is, what I would like to change about my family. And I know that it will change the life of my entire family, and that's why I draw. My art is like no other. It's about the blending. I don't keep it plain. I make it more interesting for another person there or tourist to see that, oh, I've never seen this lion. I should buy it. I will be doing this forever until I die.
Okay, whatever that is. Welcome Sheilah Sheldone Charles and her mother and her mother Vivian Otieno, all the way from Kenya. So welcome. Okay, so I don't know if you enjoyed all the art you've been seeing from the very gate when you came in, through the lobby, and all the art that's here. What an amazing, amazing job, Sheilah. I can hardly get out of bed every day. I'm just so excited to have you here, and I'm going to talk to you about your art, but first of all, this is your very first time in the U.S. I just want to know, how do you feel and what do you think about the U.S.?
First, I noticed everything, the day I entered the aeroplane, I noticed everything in America is different, including the toilet you use. Everything is different, including food, and yeah, I'm very amazed being in America.
Okay, what about you, Sheilah?
So when I was coming to the US, I thought everything looked like Disney World. But now I know it's full of tall buildings, fast-moving trains, and everybody seems to be in a rush.
Yes, we are. So I was just so impressed by how much you draw women, and you talked about women. I want you to tell me what drives you to not only draw women, but support organizations like me that are supporting women and girls. I remember when I asked you to come, your mother said, she said, yes, absolutely, because I want to take kids to school also, and I love women. So we have this beautiful picture there. What inspires you to draw women?
It's something that I've experienced when my mom was very sick. She had done 3 operations and 3 or more. And we really depend on our father because he usually gets job and sometimes he doesn't. At that point, I was not going to school. We were 2 in the family. And I have been staying out of school for 5 months. And this made me, a light was shining in my life, a real light I never thought I would see in my entire life since I met the President of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Right, that was amazing.
My life has changed. And he also paid for my mom the hospital bill, and that made it possible for her to do the 3 operations.
Wow. Good for the president to do that of Kenya. I was really touched by that. Vivian, how does it feel to have a child so talented? She is also a designer. She designed the outfit she's wearing now. She's also a model. Come on, give us a strut. She'll work it. Say, go Sheilah. See? She's always ready for a show. If you want to get a show, she'll give you a show. Okay. Okay, so Vivian, can you do yours? So where did this gene come from? Is that you? Did she get that from you or what?
Actually, I don't understand Sheilah because in our family, in the entire family, nobody draws, nobody does those things you see she's doing. I'm like, oh my God. But I thank God, Sheilah really helped me. I can say when I got pregnant when I was 14 years old. At that time, you know how disappointment you become like at this age and it's early, and you know back at home, every parent wants you to go to school, become an engineer, doctor, those are the things they know. Yeah, so I was like, where am I going to be? Where am I going to put my head? How are the community going to view me? So my parents were behind me to abort. I really tried abortion. I tried. And I was not only trying alone, they were supporting me. They were behind my back. So there was the day I was almost doing it, I can say that. Because we went, the first day I was taken with my father, we found that the machine which was there was big and could not do what they wanted it to do. So I was booked for another day. When I went the following day, there was a lady who was in, so I was on the queue waiting for the lady to come out. Immediately the doctor came out, was like, oh, the doctor was telling the mother, oh, we are sorry, she didn't make it. And I told my father, excuse me, I'm going to the toilet, I'll come back. I ran away. I never came back. So when I ran away, I stayed for months until I gave back to Sheilah. I tried giving Sheilah out for adoption. Nobody was ready for her.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I?
Yeah, nobody was ready to adopt her, so I was like, where am I going to take this girl? So I don't know what came over my parents again. They started looking for me and I came back home. So we stayed there with Sheilah. At times I could be told by my parents, okay, can you take this thing to where you get it from? So I could run away with Sheilah. You know,
you had a lot of hardships.
Yeah. You know, home, it's not like,
it's not easy. You're stigmatized. And we do talk about that, how girls are stigmatized all the time. And it feels like a death sentence when you become pregnant. And wow, at least she's here and we're here to enjoy this amazing art.
It was very, very difficult for me. I could not imagine how difficulties I passed with Sheilah. So I later joined, I went back to school. I later joined college. Immediately I joined college, I took Sheilah with me. I could lock Sheilah inside the house, go to school. Then the lecturers noticed there's something happening with you. What is it? Then I came, I was open to one of them. I explained what was happening. Then he told me, okay, I can help you get somebody to take care of Sheilah. Then that's how our life started. Wow. He got me somebody. Then I found myself getting married at an early stage because of Sheilah, because I could not, nobody was to take care of Sheilah. And at that point, back home is not as easy as you might think. Right. So I had to try and look for how I can manage myself. So that's how we came to have this beautiful girl.
I mean, you have touched in just your story alone, and she'll be available at the reception to hear more about her, because you know our stories are long and they're deep and they're complex. But out of that story alone is talking about the struggles of the girl child, pressure to get married, pressure to abort, pressure to this, and really at the end of the day is not having support. I want to ask you about what other moms can support their children in the future. You can give me a quick, what do you think other mothers, other parents, other guardians can do to support their children's talents?
If you have your daughter or your boy who is talented, please try and support your child. That's what made Sheilah to be Sheilah here today, because I did not know Sheilah had this talent until the teacher told me Sheilah has a talent. I've been trying to help Sheilah to do this art, buying the materials, and actually Sheilah has helped us a lot.
Wow, thank you, Sheilah. So we just had our annual fundraiser. We have a hats off to Diversity High Tea. Every year we have a Women and Girls Tea, first Sunday in November. And Sheilah really wanted to donate one of her pieces, and that really, really touched me. You have big dreams, girl. I want you to tell the audience, what are your dreams?
I would like to have a studio, because where I come from, many children have talents, but they don't have anywhere to practice. My studio will be free of charge.
Okay.
I have tried teaching them in my house, but it has not worked because
Do they paint the house all over?
No, they come about 40 to 50 in number. I cannot also teach them outside because the weather might be too hot or it might rain, and where we come from, the weather changes a lot.
Okay.
Apart from that, my other dream is to have a foundation. Anybody who can help me start my foundation.
Any investors here?
That will help women, widows, and vulnerable children, not only Kenya but around the world.
Yeah, you have such a big dream, and you really mean it. I've spent some time and gotten to know you, and you have a lot to say and have inspired my girl that I was talking about, you know. And I want you to just round up and tell people she brought 36 paintings she's hoping not to take back to Kenya. They're not cheap, but they are worth every single penny. And you also have a showcase next Saturday and Sunday at the Brazilian Center. So what do you want to say about that and encourage people to be there?
Come to the Brazilian Center and you can buy my paints there. I also have a table behind there where I sell t-shirts. Where I sell t-shirts and cards.
You're a businesswoman too, so we should add businesswoman, model, designer, and artist. What else is coming next? Who knows? Well, I just have really appreciated you here. I appreciate your talent and your generosity and how much you bring to the table, and an example of what we can do with our next generation when we input into them instead of trying to destroy their dreams and their beliefs. So thank you, Sheilah. Thank you, Vivian.
I have one last thing to say.
Go ahead. Can you all hear her with her mic in the back? In the back, can you hear her? Okay.
I hope and I wish that one day I'll meet Ellen and Oprah.
Oh, that's important.
I have drawn them.
Please post this video and tag Ellen and Oprah. She has their painting.
And they have been inspired me a lot because they have a heart to give out, and I wish to be like them one day.
Oh, thank you.
Beginning with my study abroad program in South Africa and then later moving into my Blum Fellowship in Georgia, I think it's really put a lot of things into perspective when it comes to politics, when it comes to where people come from and different cultures, and has certainly shaped my own professional aspirations. My name is Leanne Bolaño and I'm a global Aggie. I had no idea that by going to South Africa with this UC Davis Study Abroad program that I would be actually honing in on what I wanted to study and what I wanted to do with my professional career. I specifically chose South Africa because I wanted to choose a program that had a lot of history in terms of post-occupation or post-colonization. So when I returned to UC Davis to start my junior year after studying abroad in South Africa, one of my professional mentors connected me with the UC Davis D-Lab. And D-Lab essentially connects students from different departments and backgrounds with international clients that are facing some sort of sustainability issue. In D-Lab, when I started, I was matched with my first client. His name is Kaha, and he is actually a social geographer from the Republic of Georgia. And he was one of the founders of a cooperative village in Western Georgia. After working with Kaha for about 10 weeks, I decided I want to do more than just complete this D-Lab class, and so I decided to apply for the Blum Fellowship from the Blum Center here on campus and was awarded the grant to travel that following summer and lead a training. The success of the 2016 Blum Fellowship actually snowballed into a larger partnership that is still continuing today, where we are now partnered with different Georgian agencies and ministries from the government to integrate project-based learning in their academic institutions. In 3 months, I actually plan on starting law school to specialize in environmental and international law. Ultimately, I hope to run for elected office and be involved in political leadership and become a legislator and hopefully write legislation that will further food security, environmental justice, and proper and sustainable international development.
Okay, we are bringing up our second panel, which will be facilitated by Joy Mataro Fashu, and she has issues of HIV and AIDS hit very close to heart. Joy co-founded Project It Takes a Village. She will be facilitating the panel. We have Karima Banal, who is a professor, and her book, Your Fatwa Does Not Apply Here. I'm interested to hear much more about that. And we have Kula Koenig, who is the president of the BOAPA, the Black Women Organized for Political Action, and is passionate about Black women being in positions to influence policy. We have Palesa on the panel, who is from South Africa, Earth Alive. She's developing a card game for scholars of Africa. Love to hear more about that. And we have back LeShelle May, and we'll hear more of her perspectives as Joy covers the panel.
Thank you so very much. It's such an honor to be here, and thank you so much for covering what it means to be a lioness. I was looking at my picture and I said, me, a lioness? You know, so just thinking about our authenticity, thinking about our vulnerabilities, like what Melissa was saying earlier, how did we get to be where we are? Sometimes we feel like we've got to always be strong, but it's also okay to actually realize that we're still in the making. So thank you so much for such a well-supported event. This is amazing. An entire community that came together to put this event. So I'm really honored to be here. I will go right into the questions. So we have questions for Dr. Mtapo. So what are the perceptions around African women in science, especially those who work in unconventional careers in STEM?
Loaded. So usually it's unusual for African women to go into the sciences, especially the hard sciences. Most women are in the humanities, and actually I'm going to share a quick experience when I was here on the Mandela Fellowship, and we had a visit from some of the staff that were talking about women in STEM within the Davis University. And one of our fellows was like, why do women want to get into science anyway? Why don't they go for the soft science? Like, why don't you go to humanities? Like, why are you fighting to stay in the sciences? And it bothered me a whole lot because first of all, I mean, in South Africa, we don't actually see a lot of Black women in academic spaces. At the university where I work, we only make up 1% of the whole university, so you don't actually get to see Black women doing sciences. And so the perception is that we must go and do the softer, you know, you can't be, science is always seen as this huge intelligent, you know, you need the nerdy glasses and kind of look like me. I should have worn a lab coat or something. So it's not seen as something that women should go into. Plus, being an academic is also something that is limiting for women because, you know, women have kids, and you have to stay out of your research for some time to go raise your kids if you want a family. I had a professor when I was doing my master's, actually left the lab after 3 months and went to another lab. And he told me basically that if I wanted to do well, I should not even think about like getting into any relationship or thinking about having any kids or anything, because I would never make it. And for someone to say something like that, they already put a barrier on what you can and what you can't do. So.
Well, thank you so much. This is very important, yes, that we as policymakers, parents, to support students to excel in science. And also, part of this panel is we're discussing women in politics, we're discussing women in science, and we've got Dr. You did tell me how to pronounce it. Beno. Yes, and she's a human rights lawyer. The question that I had for you is you're working so tirelessly with women in human rights, especially African women. And the question that I have is, so what is the role of women, African women human rights defenders? What are their strategies? What are their challenges? And how are you supporting women in their role?
Thank you so much for this very important question. And first, let me say what an honor and a pleasure it is to be here today. My father was born in a small peasant village in the mountains of northeastern Algeria, and I in part grew up there, and I'm so pleased that you have included North Africa as well in this event. And when I was a child in Algeria, we were very much raised with a sense of our relationship with the rest of the African continent. That has changed a bit over time with the rise of the trans-Arab media. There's now a bit more focus on the relationship, say, with the Middle East, but that was very important in my generation, and so really a privilege to be here. So to come back to your question, I think there is so much that we can learn from what African women human rights defenders are doing on the ground in every single region of Africa now. They are building very important coalitions, I think recognizing that the violators of human rights, including some world leaders, they work together in coalition, women recognizing that they too need these networks. Very important spaces like the African Feminist Forum, the Network of Women Living Under Muslim Laws. These are just two examples. One could think of many others. Women human rights defenders are really putting themselves forward to challenge the human rights violations in every region of the continent, regardless of the consequences, and continuing to do that work in spite of the threats. And when I was preparing for this event, I was thinking very much about one of the women that I met when I was doing the research for my book, which was mentioned. And my book is about Muslims and people of Muslim heritage working against extremism. That's why it's called Your Fatwa Does Not Apply Here. And one of the very brave people that I had the honor of meeting was an African woman lawyer, a Libyan lawyer named Selwa Bouguegas. And Selwa Bouguegas was one of the people who really led the opposition to the dictatorship of Gaddafi over many, many years at great risk, and saw that great day when he was brought down and participated in trying to build the new Libya, and began, unfortunately, with the rise of extremism in Libya post-Gaddafi, began to receive threats to the point where she had to leave the country. But she was so committed to working for human rights in Libya that she, in fact, went back to the country to participate in elections, and was very tragically killed in front of her family at home, Selwa Bouguegas. But she never, ever gave up. And that, to me, is really what it means to be an African lioness. And it seems to me that those of us who live in much greater security have an obligation to try to mirror that courage of people like Selwa and tell their stories and learn from them and continue our work, their work, and let that become our work as well.
Thank you so very much. It's a powerful story. In speaking of, I like what was said earlier, that UC Davis is now the global university of the 21st century. And we're speaking of African women and African women within the diaspora. And so I want to carry on and ask Kula, who is also the president of the Sacramento chapter of Black Women Organized for Political Action. So this is a story that Dr. Benoon is just talking about, and I wanted to ask what you see the role of African women, whether it is in Sacramento or within the diaspora itself. What is our role in politics, maybe in the US and in the diaspora?
Right. So our role is so huge. We are, as Black women, we are always there. When things need to be shifted and changed, we are the ones that are the ride or die, right? And what we need to do, though, I think all of us, somebody said it, one of the speakers is, remember your worth. And so what the narrative that we're putting out now is, do not take us for granted. because there's so many strong women that came up here and spoke. And we'll be there and we'll do the work, right? But we need to be recognized. We need to, when we want to run for office, we need to be supported. That support needs to be there. We need to be supported financially. We need to be supported in terms of the resources and in terms of endorsements and in terms of credibility. Those things are so important. You know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that, and I think they asked her about, you know, when will there be equality on the Supreme Court? And she said something like, I think there should be like 9 women justices. And they thought that that was crazy. And I said, why the hell not? Yeah. You know, because that's the way that it's been. And so I think that our role has always been to be there and to fight. But what I think we need to start doing now is recognizing our worth and not playing by the rules that they have set for us. Yes. Because when you don't get to set the table to tell me how I am supposed to be, and if we're talking about being authentic, I think what it is when I'm coming and talk to you, I'm not going to change my hair, I'm not going to change the way I speak because it doesn't detract from my intelligence. And so I'm not going to change how I am. I'm not going to play by your rules. I'm tired of it. When we played by the rules that the system, the patriarchal white system has set up, we do not fare well. So we are changing. So our role will continue to do what we're doing, but to also say we're not playing by your rules anymore. That's why you see women who are moving up. Ayanna Presley, Massachusetts, saying, I am doing it my way. And that's what we have to do. We cannot play by their rules.
Thank you so much. Yes. So my question to you, Ms. May, is, Doctor, how is it that women can pay it forward? Right? How do we pay it forward to uplift women in industry, as well as, you know, when we talk about not playing by the rules, some of us are still feeling very timid and still feeling very intimidated and still trying to find our authentic selves. So how do we then, women who've made it in industry or in engineering, how do we pay it forward and keep passing the message along?
Yes. Of course, I grew up in Harlem, and here I am with you today. And I studied electrical engineering in 1984. How many African American women were in my classroom? Very limited. So when I do talk to an audience, I always say you have to increase your numbers. My daughter, she's upset about a lot of things that's going on. And the other day she said to me, do you know African American women are not heard in the ER, in the doctor's offices, etc. And they are having a lot of health issues. And we need to make change. And I said, well, you may not want to hear this, but the change is more African American women doctors. So I think, for me, when I first started at CNN, I was there to launch CNN.com, and nobody knew who I was, but I was the only developer there at that time. And a company that was a media company, but now we're more of an IT company. And for a long time, I thought, you know, why I kept talking to leadership saying, where are the numbers, where are the numbers? So I became slick about it and decided to become really good friends with an HR director. And my boss said, if you want to make change, make change. I did. And he was in a meeting with an SVP who said, oh my God, you have so many women in your organization. He goes, I do. And then he called me privately and he said, is this all you, LeShelle? Yes, it was all me. I did it without letting them know. So at the end of the day, the key is, the power is in education. You have to get your numbers up. I told my daughter, if you want to make change, that's good, but you need, did I mess up? That's good, but you got to graduate. Right? First class is get your education. Then the power becomes yours. So for me, the change is increase the numbers, educate more, so then the next group can hire more women, and then they can hire more women, and then keep this legacy going.
Well, is there any burning question for our panelists?
From the audience.
One from the audience? Yes, right at the back.
Thank you so much for your wisdom, all of you. I came all the way from Portland, Oregon to listen to you. And I'm just pinching myself looking around this room, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm at UC Davis. What a rich culture. As you know, those of you who know where I'm coming from, we don't have very much diversity. And one challenge that I run into as an African woman, a leader of my community, is a question of, this is a question directed to the African American women. We have many challenges here facing the African American community. We also have many challenges facing the African continent. And there are many, many diaspora women here from the African continent. How can we reconcile our pulling together to address the issues here and the issues on the continent equally, without feeling like, yes, we have problems in our backyard, why should I go to Africa to solve their problems? So how do we reconcile that and balance that? The two sets of women are so strong, the lionesses. How do we make that even more powerful for here and there?
So I actually was born in Liberia and came to the United States when we had a civil war, and I came to the United States when I was 8 years old when we escaped the war, and actually was a refugee in Guinea for a couple of years. But yes, I sound very American, but I can still put my Liberian accent on one kind of Camina. So I can go back and forth. But anyways, you know, that's a really tough question, because I actually started off wanting to do international relations, and I was in DC for a while, and it's tough, but I think that you almost have to make the connection of our shared history and our shared struggle, and that what you're experiencing here is being experienced over there, but you have there's a certain privileges here as well. I have so much privilege. So sometimes it seems too big. So what I think you have to do is give people, meet people where they are in terms of how they can contribute. So whether it's saying, okay, I can pay for somebody's school fee, maybe that's all I can do, versus I can raise, tens of thousands of dollars, or fly over there, or start my own organization. But it's meeting people where they are and making it something that seems like they can achieve. Because sometimes when you feel that things are too big and you can't make a difference, and you just kind of throw your hands up, and that's why you focus more locally, because you see it as being tangible. But if you can just have small steps to meet people where they are, I always loved, one of the first organizations I worked for was the United Nations Children's Fund, and I loved how they would say, like 5 cents can do this, because you're like, it made it tangible and it didn't seem like it was too big. So that would be what I would say.
I wanted to make one small suggestion, in particular to the young women of African descent. If you haven't had the opportunity to travel to Africa, I really wanted to encourage you to do that. That travel has played such a huge role in my life. I've been very lucky to spend time in North Africa, a lot of time in French-speaking West Africa, a little bit of time in Kenya. And the role models, the lionesses that I met who inspired me, who I continue to learn from, have played such a big role in my life. So I really want to encourage you to take up that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. And one other thing that I could also add is, I also came from Portland, but another thing that colonialism did was to divide our countries straight through your bedroom. And what also did was to steal each other from our continent. So I met an African American woman who told me one day, why are African women so upset at African Americans for not knowing where they come from? But as African women, we actually haven't even learned about African American history. We don't know what happened to African Americans when they got here. So our history too, all I knew from my education was Malcolm X and maybe Marcus Garvey. And I didn't know so much about African American history. And I think that's really important, to start visiting each other, to really start knowing each other, and to recognize the mental colonialism that we still suffer to this day that continues to separate us.
Thank you so much, Joy, and for moderating and for the women and your insights. We have truly drank from the well. So my spirit is filled. I don't know about yours. So let's continue to impact and empower our communities. I would like to move towards thanking our sponsors. Ladies, you're welcome to. Yep. Perfect. I want to first thank our co-organizer, UC Bloom Center for Developing Economics. I want to acknowledge our sponsors. That would be the UC Davis Office of Campus and Community Relations, UC Davis African American and African Studies Department, UC Davis Advance Program, the Center for Advancement of Multicultural Perspectives on Science, Campos, Davis Network for Africa, period, at UC Davis, Cindy Pickett for Davis School Board, Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies Department, Davis International House. I also want to thank our esteemed guest speakers. It's been a pleasure for me to meet you all. Dr. Molly, Ralph Hexter, thank you for joining us. Rahim Reed, thank you so much for taking time. Joanna Regulska, Melissa Mushaka, LeShelle May, Wadzanai Madziva, Sheilah Sheldone Charles, and Vivian. Thank you for coming and sharing your art with us. Joy, Matari Fashu Kanu, Karima Banoan, Kula Koenig. I will be at your Bawabo meetings. Where are you at? I did go to one already, yes. Palessa, wonderful to meet you. Thank you for coming and sharing. And LeShelle May, so wonderful to hear who you are and meet you. So the Davis community, thank you. Tese Foundation Board, are any of the board members here? Yes, Stan, thank you. UC Davis staff. So last but not least, and this is a surprise for Miss Nathalie, would all of the volunteers that have supported through these two events, please come forward. If you're here, hurry, hurry, hurry. We want to get to the delicacies out in the lobby. We would like to present flowers to Miss Nathalie Dzokerayi. Did I say it right? You shared this was a dream. You've now birthed that dream in us. And we thank you for your dedication, your vision, and your energy. So final closing. Again, thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us. I leave this with you. We are our ancestors' prayers, so go out and be great in the world. Baby, your crown has been paid for. So put it on your head and wear it. Thank you for coming. And I have a gift card. Did anyone come further from Portland, Oregon? Further than Portland? Other than the Lionesses. I think you are the winner of our card. Yes. All right, our reception is the instructions for if you registered, you are absolutely welcome to join us for the reception. It is to your left. If you did not, we hope to see you next year. Exit that way. It matches who this is. It matches my dress. I think I'll keep it. Okay, it's Palessa. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Keep your ear out. Go to Tese Foundation website. Find out what they're doing. They're sponsoring children in school over there. Become a part of that. and their table is out front. Thank you again for joining us.